Toronto-born Corey Livingstone is our guest. Corey is a jazz pianist, recording artist, and author of a book, Quiet Determination, Unlocking the Gates to Unlimited Success. His book, available on Amazon, is Corey's words on how to deal with worrying about things like, how am I ever going to make this dream come true? So much, though, that we end up doing nothing. Corey's approach, just do it. Today, Corey Livingstone is talking about music, his backstory on the Better Each Day podcast radio show.
Welcome to the Better Each Day podcast radio show with Bruce Hilliard. Today and every day, reaching out for innovative ideas in every way. Today's show is brought to you by your future. It comes with a lifetime guarantee. Make a better each day now, baby. Better in every way.
I've listened to a lot of your stuff. You're just awesome.
Thank you.
You were nominated for a Juno Award.
Yeah, back a few years ago. Yeah, that's not as big as the Grammys because, it's the Canadian version of the Grammys, right?
Why wouldn't it be as big?
Because that's just the reality of it, The reality of music. Canadian, it's the market. The market, because in the just the sheer lack of population in Canada as opposed to the United States. So how many you got there? 160, 70 million people?
About 328 million.
We've got 50, 55 million, and it's spread out over 5,000 miles. And there's only like a half a dozen urban centers. I want to do some work in New York if I can. So I was doing research on the number of jazz clubs and whatnot in New York. And I think I've found over 100 so far, still counting. I could probably find 5 or 6 in Toronto where I live.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, it's a real cultural wasteland.
I'm surprised to hear that.
Other than pop.
Given the political climate in the United States, I was thinking about moving up there with you.
There's many, many great things up here, Yeah. But if you really want to have an audience, you really have to. I've been fighting all my life to get an audience that will sort of follow you around. Here we're really influenced by the United States, so influenced. What's big there is big here. Some things go from here to there, like Drake and Celine Dion, things like that,
Yeah.
But as far as supporting music, it's a whole different thing. Like, politically and culturally, the United States is a scary place to live in, but the opposite up here. But as far as things like, for one thing, you guys got down there. Like, I'm really impressed when I go there and I see marching bands just as important as a football team. And here we have a school band and that's it. Forget the marching. We don't have that. And that involves a lot of people. I'm really impressed. Like, I've seen them out in the fields practicing, And these are people who will never be professional musicians, right?
Yeah.
But they're really being immersed in the music. And this is what builds this is where your fan base comes from. People who love music.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of it's done just for the love of music. I don't know about you, but I played a lot of things for no pay.
And see, that's one thing I refuse to do because I got guys. There was a time I worked 6 nights a week in music, making my living, playing 6 nights a week, and now it's like I know a lot of my friends who play for like $100 a night or $50 a night, or even worse. They put out a tip jar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I refuse to do that. Absolutely. I mean, it's an insult. At least a waiter gets a minimum wage plus tips. Right?
That's true.
But places that go now, like, oh yeah, you can play for the door. A percentage of what comes in off the booze and off the, that's not right.
Yeah.
So I just that sort of gives you an idea of a flavor, like a second class citizen, unless you put you're in a position where you a power and a notoriety.
I always look at the Canadian entertainers, the musicians, actors, comedians. I always look at you guys having the greener grass than the U.S. So maybe everybody does that. I don't know. All the funny guys come from Canada.
Well, it'd be interesting how that came about. How did that thought come about?
I don't know. I speak with people in England from time to time, and it's the same thing. We're in love with their accent, and we think England is a wonderful place, and then the stereotypes are hysterical.
I guess that's what it is.
I don't know.
I guess the grass is always greener.
You have to go walk in somebody's shoes for a while. But I said, well, what do you guys think of a California guy? What is that? And it was like blonde hair and surfboards and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and And then I said, well, what do we say about English people? We live in castles and we drink tea all the time. So
yeah.
I was like, I don't know if I think that. I've never been there though, so I don't know.
Oh, they live in ordinary buildings. They're the biggest alcoholics in the world, I think.
Oh no!
Well, they've got taverns and pubs all over the place,
I have heard that too, and that's where my ancestors come from. I'm mostly Scottish. I asked an English guy to do the Scottish accent, and this is what not only what he did with an accent, but what he said was, I've been drinking scotch since this morning and I'm a little bit pissed off. Is that how they talk there? So that's good to know I have scotch in my blood.
Yeah, it is scotch, literally, isn't it?
Yeah. How did you start out? Did you come from a musical family?
Well, I guess musically, wasn't any active musicians. Well, my mother I think she had piano lessons when she was small and she liked music. But she never really, she was an actress in the public speaker, so she was sort of like in showbiz, right?
Right.
She was a leader in society. In fact, up here, the Canadian government struck a stamp in her honor for the work that she did during her lifetime. So she's the one that made us, and I underline made, us start taking piano lessons.
Oh.
And it just sort of went from there, right? Me and my two brothers. And later on, my two sisters, but I'm the only one that came out at the other end, still playing.
Do you remember taking lessons where you kind of like it was your duty to do it, or did you really want to do it?
That's been burned in my mind. That's when you have memories in your head from when you're small. That's one of them.
Yeah.
I remember, because it was extremely painful, boring. I remember calling out because the duty was to the drill was practice a half hour every day.
Mm-hmm.
And every 5 minutes I'm calling out because my mom was usually nearby, because the living room connected to the kitchen, and that's where the piano was, so she could hear and monitor right while she was doing her chores in the kitchen. And every 5 minutes I'd call out, 5 minutes up yet? Not yet.
It is so tedious at that level of play because you're doing scales and stuff that
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And it doesn't need to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to tell people that, and I get all kinds of stuff like, I'm too old, or I don't know how to read music. And
of course not. You've been taught yet. Of course you don't know how to read.
Yeah. Well, I tell them a lot of people that I played with through the years don't read a lick.
Louis Armstrong didn't read anything.
I didn't know that.
No, he couldn't read he didn't read at all.
I really think you compensate, though. I think your ear just gets better, and your memory gets better. And after a while, you don't really need a lot of music in front of you.
Well, that's what music is. Music is sound, isn't it?
Yeah, it's vibration.
It's not literacy. Music is the only reason I think music was done, because a few hundred years ago, that's the only way they had of recording it. We have to write it down.
Right.
If they had recorders, then everybody would be saying, okay, I'm going to record this down, I'll listen to it and then play it. Yeah. Because it's an oral tradition.
Folk songs kind of were passed down just via, sitting around the campfire type of a thing. But I think when it came to sacred music, that's when they really came, to the point where we're going to have to write something down. I don't know if you've ever looked at Gregorian chant type stuff where it almost looks like it's lines with the flags really don't have times on them. It looks like everything's a quarter note basically, but it did have pitches. But it does fall short because you can't really write something down on paper and say this is how it's supposed to sound. It doesn't work very well.
An artist who paints, you can see what they want because it's there and your eyes can see it. You can't write art. I can describe a picture to me. Describe the picture in words. You can, but it's going to fall far short. Yeah. It's the same way you're writing down music. You think this is what I want, but this is how it sounds.
Yeah.
You know, you and I know myself, you think back to music you grew up with and music that stayed with you and music that you like. It touched something, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. So that's why. And I'm saying to myself for the last little while, what music do the kids now have, like, the touches that they can hold on to? I mean, 40 years from now, they're going to listen to "Bust a Cap in Your Knee, You Bitch." You know, I mean,
I know, I don't get it.
What is that? I mean, you know, you can't get nostalgic about that.
I don't know how that works. I'm glad you said that.
Well, that's been, that often crosses my mind.
Yeah. And do you want your kids listening to that?
Well, whether they do it, well, I used to call it baby music. I said to my kids, yeah, let's put on some more of that baby music, because that was the only word in the song, right?
Yeah.
Baby. And so I'm looking at the see, there were at one time, there were real tunesmiths in music. I mean, they really made music. They crafted music, and so that's my where I'm alluding to, that craftsmanship is going. It's gone, or at least from the mainstream. And unfortunately, we're made to believe. Well, it's there. It's not gone. It's there, hidden away. It's covered up. We're made to believe that the manufactured music is what music is. You know, because the music now that they want to play in most radio stations it's manufactured, it's industrial, and only half of it is, maybe not even half of it, maybe 10 or 20% of it is real human input, participation, real music. Everything else is a mechanical application stamped out somewhere and assembled and passed off as music. And unfortunately, that's what the kids are, and it's not their fault.
Yeah, when I talk about the current stuff that's coming out, I feel the same way. Maybe I'm a little bit too nostalgic. I don't know, but my question is, where's it going to go? You know, where's it headed? Does it make any sense to sit down and do what you're trying to do and write some well thought out music? You know, or should you just get out the cookie cutter? And you wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I know what you're about. I think that is for this brand of music. Like, it's contained. That's more I think about it, is contained. There's 100 branches, 100 avenues you can go, and the stuff that you're forced to on the pop radio to listen to, that's going down that way. You know, okay, you want to go down that street, that's where the drug addicts and dope pushers and all these people live. And it's not going to go away. It's there, and you don't have to go down there. I think that's the same thing with the music. There's a pathway, there's this back alley, there's this road that's made to look very popular, okay? But you can only go to McDonald's a few hundred times, and you're going to want to have some real food. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I always start out with, if a human life is the most valuable thing there is, most people would agree to that. Well, then promoting that kind of thought or that kind of music, what value does that add? To me, it's just nothing but at least a compromise to everything that we started out with. So why not write something that's uplifting or has a message that's good? You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be sunshine and rainbows either, but to paint a picture that popping a cap in your knee or whatever it was that you said.
Yeah.
I don't see a feature in that. Yeah. Bitch. Yeah, got to get the bitch. The more you can swear a couple mofos in there is good too. That's good. Yeah, good Shakespearean thought.
But, you know, it's all done in the name of capitalism, and fine. I mean, if that's where you want, I mean, it's a choice, right? You have a choice. You can go, if the money's there, of course, you can go that way. That's fine. So the fact that there's choices, it's a little harder now, I think, maybe, to do something that's against the grain. But, you know, it depends on what choices you yourself want to make.
Absolutely agree. Let's play some of your music in here somewhere. So what would you like to feature?
Hello, everybody. Corey Livingstone here.
I'm not sure what I had there. It doesn't have a title.
Yeah, that's called, what's that one called? That's the hardest thing for me. I make up names. I'm always given the razz about the titles I make up. I think I called that one Hit It,
Hit It?
I like to be like Beethoven, Opus 1, number 2, Movement 1, Opus 3.
Yeah, I know. I'll have the number 5. It comes with broccoli and beef.
There you go. Yeah. There you are. That's the way. All these. Now you got to have all these fancy names. So here's number 1, number 2.
What's the story behind Hit It? Did you just sit down and start playing it?
I always start with a little motif or a little theme and then develop it. I think, I like that, and then you see where can this take me, right? Because that's what all composers, I shouldn't say all, but I think a great many composers, you just need a little germ.
Yeah.
Just need the egg and the sperm, and bang.
And you have procreation.
And then life is created. Yeah, life is created.
And you hope the baby turns out pretty good. But yeah.
Well, you keep working on it until the work turns out the best that you can make it for now. Okay, I'll put it away and we'll bring you out again and smooth off some of those rough edges.
That's it. Hit it. What kind of stuff do you like playing the best?
I like to play stuff from a lot of bebop stuff.
Oh.
Like Thelonious Monk and Thelonious Monk mostly. Yeah,
that's the first name that comes to my mind when you say bebop.
He was a great, builder, He had great stuff, great ideas he'd work on. You can hear him as he plays working these things out. Musically, he's really building something musically sound. You can hear that.
I think a lot of people, including me, you have to really acquire a taste for it because it sounds pretty erratic, but it's clever. It actually makes sense if you sit down and listen to it. And I think once a person does acquire a taste for it, there's nothing like it. It's pretty unique stuff.
Yeah, well, it's like the same thing. People say this is a great piece of art. I'll look at it and say, it's like a piece of art to me. But
yeah, it looks like
then they explain.
Looks like a can of soup.
Explain why.
Yeah, it helps.
So once you understand, it helps a lot. Anything's like that. Once you're told one tiny thing, then you can. Oh yeah.
Well, I wish you the very best in the future. I'm gonna kind of keep an eye out for you, see what you're doing. Maybe you'll make it into New York and one of those 9 million places you say that are jazz clubs.
Yeah.
And if you're ever,
I might even make it out to Seattle.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you're ever in the Seattle area, I'll definitely come out and see you.
Yeah. If I ever get to Vancouver, just shoot right down there.
In our arms, we cling to you and me. You take my innocence from me, plucked by the breeze so tenderly. They say the bird sang sweetly on that summer's eve. I couldn't hear love, for you were in my eyes. I couldn't hear love, for looking in your
Listening to the Better Each Day podcast radio show with Bruce Hilliard. We'll be back with a new horizon, but until then, honor the future. It comes with a lifetime guarantee.
And we're all just trying to make the next day a bit better.